In a moment, I want to let you in on a conversation between myself and Ayo. Ayo is part of our community here, great friends, leader on our Alpha group and part of the Bridge the Gap team. But before that, I want to say that these last couple of weeks, I'm feeling heartbroken, I'm feeling moved, and I'm feeling challenged by the racial injustice that we've seen over the past few weeks. And I'm sure, like a lot of you, it's caused me to do some soul searching, to check my heart. And it feels, in many ways, it feels to me like a long overdue wake up call. And I pray that as our eyes are opened and our hearts are opened, that we would move forward. As a leadership team, we're committed to reflecting and praying and prioritizing time to understand the lives of those who are different from ourselves. And our prayer is that as we do this and as we talk about it, these are not just empty words, but that we actually become more like Jesus every day with his radical love for those who are oppressed, for those who are marginalized. I think it really matters what we do publicly, but only if it's reflected by what we do privately. And so what I want to do is show you just a short part of a much bigger conversation that I had with Ayo, but it's also part of many other conversations that we are having privately. But I think it's an important conversation for us to have publicly. And I'm under no illusions that this is going to fix anything or particularly change at this stage, but it's a start. And so as we move forwards, I will likely make mistakes, as I have made mistakes in the past, but my commitment is to learn and my commitment is to grow. And so I want to show you a short part of my conversation with Ayo. Well, Ayo, thank you so much for just being willing to kind of have a more public conversation. And my first question I want to ask is, in the UK and maybe more specifically in Southampton, tell us what's it like to be a black guy in Southampton in the UK? What's that like for you?
Yeah, it's a good question. In Southampton, compared to some other cities, maybe London or Manchester or bigger cities, so the population's a bit homogenous. So you're more likely to come across someone who's white than someone who's a person of color. And as a result, I'm personally more likely to stick out in a room or stick out on the high street, or if I go into West Quay, than anyone else. So there's always that element of, I do stick out, I am visible, I can't blend in really with the crowd. So that's one aspect of my experience. There are incidences that do happen from time to time, and more subtle nuances of prejudice in some way or some form that I have experienced, and many other people would have experienced as well.
Do you mind telling us a bit about that?
Yeah, I don't mind at all. I would say like a reasonable example could be if I go shopping, one of my biggest fears is walking out of a store without buying anything, because you're instantly being watched as you're leaving when you've not picked up anything, or you've gone into a changing room to try something on and you realize, I don't think I want that, it doesn't suit me. So you walk out and you're like, please don't think that, please don't stop me, please don't think I put something in my bag, because I haven't. Or it could be other things I've experienced could be or have been like on public transport. So like you get on a bus, it's a very, very busy bus at rush hour. I take a seat and there's one seat next to me Obviously I'm politely taking my bag away so that anyone who wants to sit down can sit down. But people would just prefer to stand and not sit down. And I can remember vividly one time when the bus was so full, so full. I think I was getting to the station, and I was the only person who didn't have someone sitting next to them. Not like I'm craving a conversation with someone, or I want someone to sit next to me. Like, I feel like I just noticed it and thought, that is a bit weird. It is a bit strange that could happen. And is there something I'm doing wrong? I would say those two things. And potentially one other thing is that I've experienced quite often is whenever I pay with cash, you know, the little like felt pen things that they use to check to make sure it's actually not counting bill. Yeah, there are times when people before me would pay in cash and that wouldn't get checked, but then I pay in cash and it gets checked. I mean, it could be random, I don't know, but it happens, and you do notice it, but it's one of those things.
Gosh. Well, I mean, thank you for sharing that. Just so thinking about that, and particularly for us here at St. Mary's, like Ayo, you're part of our community. You lead on Alpha. You're involved and with Bridge the Gap. And what are a few things that we could think about as we look to try to work towards a better future, where people are treated as humans who are equally loved by God, and as we look to our neighbour, look to love and serve our neighbours, what are some things that we could be thinking about as a community?
I think that's a very good question, because one of the things that has been very different about this particular incident is that a lot of people have noticed for the first time, who are not part of the immediately affected community. It's actually commanded widespread acknowledgement of the injustices that happen very regularly, and how systemic issues of racial prejudice are. And so people have started to question things. They started to be like, how can I get involved? How can I support? How can I help enact change? So in that same vein, this is a question that is relevant to everyone, you know, St. Mary's as well. And as a community, we can, I guess, first of all, acknowledge that it is a thing. I think for a lot of people, we're all in different bubbles in society, and it's possible to be sheltered from things, and as such not actually notice that the severity of a situation. But with the videos being out there, that bubble has kind of burst, and loads of people can actually see the gravity. So acknowledging is one thing. I think there isn't necessarily a foolproof answer. I don't have all the answers. But what I can say is educating yourself is quite a good thing as well, to understand the background behind what's happening, and the stories from people of different races, and the points of view. I think educating yourself, reading books, listening to TED Talks is quite good, just to help to understand the situation. And then I think what we're doing right now, that is absolutely key, having a conversation about it. It's not the easiest thing to talk about. It's definitely the kind of thing that would ruin your dinner party. It's definitely the kind of thing that would probably like make you lose a couple of friends at work, but it's such an important thing. It's so important to make those discussions possible to happen, because I think as a community in the UK, we are quite a jokey culture. I mean, we have a very jokey culture. If the conversation isn't interesting, if it's too hard talking, if it's not funny, then it's really, really, really difficult for you to be able to pass it across to someone. And this isn't necessarily one of those things that you can put into that bracket, but it's still something that needs to be done, and a conversation that still needs to be had. So having that conversation starts something. And it's not going to be done or fixed in a day. That's so certain. But what we can do is we can get the ball rolling. It's a generational thing. So if you as a dad or many other parents start to educate themselves, educate their kids, speak to them about things that are happening in the world, and so change their perspective, broaden their horizons, they're more likely to take a positive stand and make actual change in the future. Because, you know, our generation and the generation coming after us, you know, they're the leaders of tomorrow. And, you know, that sort of change requires their buy-in.
Yeah. I thank you so much.
No problem. It was really, really good having this discussion.
Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today our daily bread, and forgive us our sins, as we forgive those who sin against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For the kingdom, the power, and the glory are yours, now and forever. Amen.